Get Gutsy, episode number 234 with Rebecca Howard. Do it before you're ready.
Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now.
Hey there. Welcome to Get Gutsy. As I record this intro for you, I'm looking out at these gorgeous mountains. The sun has risen, and I am in Phoenix, Arizona. I am here in the desert. The air is a lot drier here. I'm feeling that on my skin. But the air is also a lot warmer. Let's just be real. From where I am in Massachusetts, I am here attending Allie Brown's iconic event. It's been incredible. So much magic, so many wonderful women in the room. I've reconnected with a lot of friends. I've met new amazing women who I hope will become friends. And it's simply that reminder that so often in our business, we need to leave our local area to go deeper into what's next for us and how we can reach more people, how we can take our message and our gifts to that next level. And that's what I've been doing since I realized that I was called to this entrepreneur coaching path. And it's funny, as I'm here at this event, it's November of 2019, I realized that I was here 10 years ago, but I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, instead of Phoenix, Arizona, working with Allie Brown for the first time. It was 10 years ago. I came to my first female entrepreneur event. It blew my mind. And these last 10 years have been a wild, wonderful ride. And it's my willingness to go to events that have really catapulted things for me. So I wanted to share that with you to get the wheels spinning as you feel into where you need to go. I mean, listen, having an online business is incredible. There's times you don't even need to get out of your pajamas if that's what's up for you that day. If you're doing a lot of writing or you're on social media, but you're in that zone sometimes where you just need to keep it super cozy. That's a beautiful thing. When I lead my calls for clients, I get dressed, okay? But you don't have to, quote, leave your house. But really you do. You really do. You need to be strategic with the events that you go to, with the people that you're around. It elevates your thinking. It gets you out of your comfort zone. And I want you to keep your eyes open because I do have an incredible opportunity to come with me live and with amazing coaches who are as passionate as you are, happening in May 2020. So when we open the waitlist for that, I will let you know so you can be one of the first to know about what we've got going down. 2020 is going to be a huge year. I'm actually starting 2020 by leading my incredible clients through a transformative experience in Costa Rica. So that's coming up. Gosh, before we know it, that will be here. And so I want you to know that. I want you to know that about attending events and making the time for that and making the investment for that. It's not free to go to events, but if you are unwilling to travel, get yourself out of the everyday, you're going to have a really challenging time growing your business to the level that it's meant to go. And that's really what your job is. That's really what your job is. You're here to help your clients. You're here to expand. You're here to share your message. But as the steward of the business, you've got to really take that piece seriously. And attending live gatherings is a huge piece of the puzzle. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to some of our incredible reviewers. We have a nice amount of reviews on Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes. And if you haven't left us a review yet, it would be amazing to have your voice represented. We're coming up on, oh my gosh, when did this podcast come out? 2015. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary. So I'd love to get your feedback and your review on Apple Podcasts. You can just head over there and take a few moments and share what you love about the show. So Lillian Aswari, hey Lillian. Lillian's love Lillian. She left us a review. She says this: Jenny's podcast captured the essence of a profound message and gift. If you are a spiritual entrepreneur or a person with a dream that burns to be manifested, Jenny's podcast will guide you to deeply realize your dharma, your path. What this really means is Jenny will help you to harness your focus and unleash your creative energy to bring forth your business dreams. Go for it now. Thanks, Lillian. And Miranda Merton, she also left a review. And let me tell you, she knows these episodes because she is on my team. She supports several amazing entrepreneurs, me being one of them. So grateful for Miranda's help. She's the one behind the scenes doing all of the things that I am not good at, but are essential for the running of this business. And she is the one who edits this podcast, gets it out to you, puts it out on social, puts it up on the podcast players, and all of those things. So if you enjoy this podcast, you're tuning in, you have Miranda to thank for that. And she says this: Jenny has a gift for helping female entrepreneurs tap into what they're meant for in this world. She does this with a realness and a warmth that is refreshing in this industry. No BS, telling it like it is, and giving actionable steps to get you where you need to be. Love it. And love you, Miranda. Thanks so much for those kind words. All right. So listen, over the next several weeks, you are going to have the good fortune of hearing from a lot of my clients. I am so proud of my clients. I adore my clients. Very grateful that they've stepped forward to do this deep work with me. And I've invited many of them to be on the show as we round out 2019 and move into a brand new year. Can you believe it? It's hot on our heels. It is almost here. And today I have Rebecca Howard for you. Wow. You're going to hear how her and I met, but this woman is a powerhouse. She is a force of nature, and Rebecca was always meant to be an entrepreneur. She started her journey building her first business at the age of 23, and she has not stopped since. Her experiences working with pro skateboarder Tony Hawk, running a nanny placement agency, becoming a widow, and getting sober have given her great insight into business, relationships, and faith. Stepping into her calling as a coach was the natural next step for her to help a lot more people doing what she loves. Rebecca empowers women to bust through mental blocks and reclaim their personal power so they can make more money and more impact without the overwhelm. Rebecca has a lot of kids. You're going to hear just how she balances it all, how she does this thing, and she's a single mom. And she impresses me all the time with her willingness to show up, her commitment, her just seeing the thing that she wants to do and just knowing she's going to do it. She's just going to figure it out. She's going to commit. She trusts the process. She shows up for it. And you're going to totally love this episode if you know that it is time to go for something in your business, in your life. You know it's time. This thing's been knocking on your door. It keeps coming across your radar. And you know it's time to go for it, even if you don't feel 100% ready. That's what we're diving into today. When you listen, you're going to hear why you need to create boundaries in your business. You're going to hear the surprising shift in her life that made Rebecca switch directions. And we talk about why success doesn't have to be hard. Enjoy this episode with me talking to the incredible Rebecca Howard.
Rebecca Howard, welcome to Get Gutsy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So excited to have you with me and all of our listeners today. Tell everyone, where am I talking to you from? Like, where are you right now?
I am in San Diego, California. I live in Carlsbad, cute little beach community. And I'm in my little Zen Den office of my home, my little space.
I like your Zen Den. That's nice. That's a really cool space. So it sounds like you are like me. You also work from home. How is that experience for you?
You know, it's good. It's good. I definitely, some days are harder than others to, kick myself in the butt to come down here and work because there's things that need to be going on. But, there's things going on around me. But I do love the freedom and the location independence that I now have.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I'm all over the place. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, most of the guests that I have on here also work from home. Now that I'm kind of going through my memory, not all, but a lot. And I feel like that's such a wonderful opportunity that we have now in this time that we're living in. I was talking to talking to my niece recently just about, and she's in college, so gosh, she's got, her whole life in front of her in terms of her career and how she designs it, but how we're so blessed now that we can work wherever we want. We have technology here, we have all these tools, and that I look to the future, I'm like, I don't want to retire. I'm having such a good time. Like, I have work that I love to do, and when I can do it from home, I have my kids. Like, you can really create your schedule around the needs of your family or your lifestyle or what have you. It's such a wonderful thing. So tell everyone, you and I, we met a few years ago. I think you had been kind of in my community for a bit, and then you stepped forward and you joined my mastermind at that time. And I really got a chance to get to know you and your courage and your commitment and the fact that you've been a freaking entrepreneur pretty much your entire career. So yeah. I'd love for you to take us back and talk to us about that work. Like, what's the work that you were called to do when you first started working for money and for fun and for, satisfaction? But what's been like kind of how you entered the entrepreneurial waters way back when?
So, I'm 43 years old now. It's been a long time. I started my first business I was almost 23. I was 23 years old. I had been working in the skateboarding industry, the professional action sports industry. I worked for Tony Hawk. I was one of his key accounts managers, and I loved that job. But I had been a nanny in college. I had worked my way through school working as a nanny for a couple of really wealthy families. And the way that I found those positions was through a local nanny agency who did nothing to screen me. And I knew that they were charging like thousands of dollars to the people that hired me because I was working one of the families I worked for a year while I was in college had President Clinton at their house regularly. So they were hiring an agency to send them someone fully screened to work with them. And this agency never fingerprinted me, never background checked me, just had me fill out a paper, and then they introduced me to the family, and they charged the family like $3,000 to place me, and that was it. So I always had it in the back of my mind, like, man, how hard could it be to own and to run a nanny agency? I mean, I see the way this woman's doing it out of her house, and she's doing just a crappy job and making amazing money. She's driving a Mercedes. And so I always talk about, like, man, I bet I could do that so much better. So I got married very young. I got married at 23. My husband was 10 years older than me. He was very entrepreneurial. And he's the one that kind of pushed me to do it. He was like, well, come up with a name, build a website, like, get yourself out there. And so with his support, I did that. And long story short, about 6 months after starting my business, I was making more in the business than I was in my job. And so I left the job and became, a full-time nanny agency owner.
I love that. I love how you basically saw a problem in the market. And that's what I always see is that when someone has that entrepreneurial blood is they see like, there's a problem here. Like, this is an issue. I see things happening here. I see that there's a market, obviously, because you were involved kind of on the other side of that, and that you could do it better, or at least you could get in the game. Like, I could get in the game. I think I could make an impact here. And that husband said, yeah, go freaking do it. Just come up with a name and put up a website. I mean, that's so much of what I want our listeners to take in, is that you simply need to give that courage. Say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come up with a name, put up a website. Sometimes you don't even need a website. It's just like, I'm going to just start talking to people about what I can do, and then we'll see if there's a chance for me to help them. All right, so you get this thing off the ground. You eventually quit this job. That's so cool. I didn't know that you worked with Tony Hawk. That's rad. That must have been a lot of fun. But I had enough fun where you're like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. You know what? I have...
That 9 to 5 was not my thing. I just knew it. In my blood, it was like, I need to be free. I need to create. I need to get here at 9.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so rad. So you started this business, and then how did you get clients? Like, how did it grow?
So back then, the internet was there, and it was pretty easy to run ads. But really, what I was doing at the beginning was running ads in the newspaper. I had ads in all the parenting magazines. I had ads in the newspaper. I was taking my cards and putting them in pediatricians' offices, and just hustling. I was hustling. That was how I was back then. It was like, you have to hustle really freaking hard to make things happen. So that was where I was at in my mentality, and so it was every second of the day I was promoting myself. I was promoting my business. I was up until 2 a.m. Thinking about business. It was like all consuming. But that's how it happened. I had that, like, I had that grind mentality, and I just kept going until it happened.
Okay. And so you eventually get, I'm guessing, a pretty full client roster where you were constantly having new leads coming in. Okay, we're going to place this family with this candidate, and blah blah blah. Okay, so you still have this business. I mean, you said you're now 33 years old, so it's been about 20 years. Wow. Okay, so lots of twists and turns. I know it's not your only business. You're a serial entrepreneur, but what have been some of the biggest lessons learned from that particular business and owning a business for that long, and kind of all the evolutions, and you became a mother, like you just have, your life has evolved so much, as has that business. But what were some of your biggest lessons learned with that particular business?
I feel like that business caused me to grow up. Like I said, in the beginning phases, I was like, hustle, grind, be available 24/7, slit your wrist for your clients. That was my mentality. Do anything to keep you people happy. And when I had my own kids, which was around 27, when I had twins, I kind of had a mental breakdown at that point, where it was like, oh my God, people are calling me constantly. I'm listening to, gripes and complaints and issues, and there were no clear boundaries, and people just like, I had 2 babies that needed my attention, and then I had like some mom who was mad that her nanny didn't, stay for the whole time, and like, it was just like, So I think the first big lesson that I learned there, but it actually took me until just a couple of years ago to really get it. I danced around this lesson for a while, was to set clear boundaries. And back then, setting boundaries to me felt scary, and it felt like you would have to be mean. You'd have to say mean things. And so what I've learned, this has been probably the biggest takeaway from that business, is that you don't have to say anything to set a boundary. You just don't respond until you're ready. Like, somebody texts you at 9 p.m. and they're having an issue, and they consistently don't hear from you until 9 a.m. the next day, then they're going to get the message that you're available at 9 a.m. To me, it was like, I was in this mentality that if I said those things, like, I'm not available until blah, 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 people would think, wasn't legit. It was crazy. From that is boundaries.
Oh yeah. I mean, thank you for bringing that up. It's so helpful for us to talk about this and for people to hear, especially new entrepreneurs. I mean, so much of my audience you are a coach as well, and we're going to talk about that in a bit, but coaches, consultants, therapists, helpers, healers, those in that kind of wellness, growth, we care a lot. Like, we care a lot about our people and we want to help people, but that can very easily spill over into caretaking and when you caretake so much for others, you don't care for yourself at the level that you need to. And that's not sustainable. And you experience that. I've experienced that too, where you get to a point you're like, someone's got to give. I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm exhausted. My kids need more of me. I can't be responding to everyone's stuff at all hours of the night, all hours of the day. And for some people, they get to that point and they're like, I can't even I guess I'm not cut out for business, because this is asking way more of me than I can do. And so for everybody, please take in Rebecca's story and that lesson from 2 decades running one particular business. You should and need to have boundaries. You're allowed. It's not a bad thing to say, yeah, you know what, we respond. Here's the hours of response to our business. Here's how things work. And it just keeps everybody kind of clear. And I think it helps people see you as even more of a leader, because they realize what will fly with you and what won't, and then what they can have in their own lives and in their own businesses.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So you've got this one business going, you're hustling hard, you're making things happen, you realize you need boundaries in place. I'm sure there's lots of other things that have gone on there as the market evolved and you have evolved. And because I know you personally, I know that you have had some really hard things happen for you personally when it comes to your relationships and with that initial husband that we were talking about. So can you tell our listeners what you've experienced in terms of loss?
So Steve and I were married, like I said, when I was 23. We were married for 13 years. We had 3 children together. We had the twins that I said I had when I was 27, and then I had Jackson 8 years later. 8 weeks after my 3rd child was born, I got a call that Steve was found dead in a hotel room. And it's one of those things that I kind of saw it coming. I knew, based on his addiction and things that he was battling, that changes weren't made, that it would come to this sooner than later. But I was not expecting him to die in his sleep in a hotel room on a business trip. Just boom. And yeah, so that is an experience that it's a tough one. It was, talk about the rug being pulled out. Steve was really my first coach. Like I told you, he was the one that was like, do it before you're ready. Like, go, you're enough right now, go. And that's, through the years, that's what we all learn from a coach. And that's what we teach as coaches is, part of it is getting people to believe in themselves before they think they're ready. And so Steve was he was 10 years my senior. I kind of looked up to him because he had gotten so much farther along in life. And, to have that guiding light and that, that strength, even though at the end he was back and forth battling alcoholism and things that were, made things more difficult, I still felt safe with him. And I still felt like, I have a tendency to get in my head. I'm a Virgo. And he was always looking at the bright side. And so I had that quality around me, even when things were darker.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, then he's gone and I'm left to my own devices, all up in my head about oh my God, how am I going to handle this? My house was almost in foreclosure. I had no idea that he hadn't been paying the mortgage. His business, he was a great business person, very smart, but he had taken some not so smart risks. Just brain wasn't all there, and he was putting he shouldn't have. He was gone. My kids were devastated. I had a newborn, and the business that was paying all the bills, because my nanny business made great money, but I was just buying Louis Vuitton and going to Vegas with my friends with the money, getting and like partying all the time. I didn't have to pay any bills. When he was gone and I had to look at that, it was like, oh, wow. 30 years old, 35 years old, however old I was, it was like time to start adulting. What? What? So that was, the most significant challenge to date that I have ever faced. And it took years to get to a place of confidence in myself that I can keep this going, even though I have been keeping it going. But what if that was just a fluke? And what if that wasn't, isn't sustainable? And that's where my passion, I know you're going to ask me about this, but that's really where my passion for coaching comes from. Not only do I have that practical side of building businesses, but I've also almost lost it all and had to by myself.
Right. Let's dig in there. And it's, again, you and I have history, so I know this, but then to hear you explain it again and to kind of take me there, 8 weeks, you have an 8-week-old, plus you already have these twins, and then boom, you get the call, and the way things had been designed before was like his business basically funded your life. Like the big things that needed to happen, and then your business was like all the fun money, right? And then things needed to totally freaking, like, everything changed for you overnight. And holy crap, like, whoa. And so I know there's at least one person listening right now who might be in this, maybe not those exact same circumstances, but they're in some kind of whoa. A massive change just has occurred. How the heck do I even proceed? And so what I love about you, Rebecca, is that you just suit up for another day. You're like, let's go. We're going to freaking do this. And you will figure it out. And you've always shown that to me, is your willingness to figure it out, your willingness to show up, your willingness to know that this is the work, and that you doing the work and you're really sharing your story is how you serve people. How you serve people and how you let them know. You just remind them, listen, you can totally create this business. You can have this thing, but you've got to be willing to deal with that stuff between the 2 ears. Okay, I know you do a ton around the mindset work. And so so you're in this like major freaking OMG situation, trauma, crisis, massive change, husband has passed away. How did you navigate that in terms of the work? Did you put more energy into the nanny business? I know he had a business. Like, did you keep that going for a bit? And I know eventually you shut that down, I believe. And so kind of how did you navigate that? Because this is a real kind of tactical, tangible of how do you go through your days and have like money to pay for the things that need to be paid for?
So I was in a lot of fear, I'm not going to lie. I mean, really freaking afraid and numbing myself out with at least a bottle of wine every night, at least.
Okay.
That was my not so healthy coping mechanism. But yeah, I was in fear. I probably, looking back, probably should have focused a little more on the nanny business because I knew that, but I decided to go into his business. And I did an amazing job. I went in, I cleaned house. So got rid of all the departments that were losing money. MSNBC actually sought me out and did a whole show on me because of what I had done. And, awesome. I took this business that was $600,000 in the hole every year, and I brought it up to a $4.5 million company within a few years by going in, cleaning house, learning, about it. But the thing is, I didn't like the industry. I got to a point of burnout with that business where And the nanny business was still going. I just wasn't giving it as much attention. I was in this business, the bigger money business. And when I say, 4.5 million, people are like, oh my God. But what goes into a $4.5 million company is 20 to 30 employees, a lot of different insurances, different vehicles, all kinds of things going on. And so what I did when I went in and I, made that business, bumped that business up, was I created like a private hell for myself to live in. I was at the point where I had nannies 24/7. I had 3 different nannies that rotated on call. The last one would come in at 7 p.m. and stay until 11 to make sure the kids were asleep so I could sleep. So I was literally not spending time with my kids. I was work. I was back in that hardcore hustle. MSNBC was featuring me, and like people, there was a buzz going around, but the take back, what I was getting back for that amount of like soul sucking, like soul killing work I was doing, the money I was like, I could bring home this much money in my nanny business just doing a couple of placements a month with no employees if I wanted to.
Right.
Why am I doing this and dealing with all this stuff and still seeing my kids when I could be doing something that, doesn't have as much overhead? So I was like, this battle in my mind. And I ended up going to rehab during that time. There was a point where I always like to touch on this because I know that people are listening that are struggling. Yep. There was a time where the numbing myself out got to a complete extreme. I was pushing off the depression of my husband having died years ago. I was pushing off. I had another relationship that was ending, a very short marriage that was ending at the time. Business was driving me crazy, and I was just a basket case, and I had to go get help for a month. And when I came back, I had that clarity of like, this isn't working. And so, that's when I shut that business down. And basically that was another rug being pulled out, but it was a self-imposed rug being pulled out. Like, okay, I'm going to go into the abyss again. I'm going to let everything go. I'm going to not be making the money, and I'm going to back myself into a corner so much that I have to like claw myself out and build what the business I want, the life that I want. And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, you sure did. And so is that around the time that you recognize that your life lessons and what you did to, pull yourself out of addiction and handle the curveballs that it came to you, that would uniquely design you to be a stellar coach, and not even mentioning all your freaking business background you have? Was that around that time you're like, I think this is a thing? Like, how did you know that coaching was a thing? Like, did you see it on Facebook? Like, did you know people were coaches? How did you get that on your radar?
Because I actually read your book right before I got sober. I remember, I'll have to tell you the full story one day, but I remember walking and listening to Allie Brown, and I hadn't drank or done any substances the night before. It was like the first night that I didn't do anything, and like I was like, oh my God, I'm doing so good. I've been sober since last night. And I was listening to your Allie Brown podcast, and I was like, I totally resonate with what you're saying. Read your book. So that was kind of, I had gone to a couple of Allie Brown things, and I was listening to her podcast, and then you were kind of the next coach that I caught my eye. I read your book. I think I might have brought it with me to rehab too. And so, yes, to answer your question, that's where the awakening came. That's where spirituality really became a huge part of my life, and learning to trust. I was away at rehab. I had to trust that my kids were being taken, cared for. I had to trust that everything was going to be okay when I got back, as long as I took care of this. I had to trust that there was something out there bigger than me that had been orchestrating this. I had to trust that, the lessons that I was learning were for my good and in my favor, even though it hurt and was really crappy at the time. And so, to answer your question, yes, that's when I started to think there's something to this coaching thing, and there's a unique set of people that I can help. And that's when spirituality became such a huge part of my life. that I was like, kind of wove together, right? So I was like, I want to help women be successful without that overwhelm and burning yourself out and hustle and grind, because I learned that sometimes the pause and the trust and the spiritual side is as, if not more effective than the hustle, grind, make it freaking happen. And that was just like a big awakening for me.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good. It's so important for you to do this work and for us to talk about this. And again, so much of it is kind of deconstructing or deprogramming what we might have been taught around you. Just like the harder you work and the harder you hustle, and if you stay up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. every night, you totally, because women, we can't really do that. You can do it for a short period. And then once you become a mom, if you do that, that's the path you're called for and you say yes to, I mean, you experience it. Like you weren't with your kids for that time when you were hustling. And then you had to surrender. You realized you couldn't numb out anymore. And thank you for sharing your story about going to rehab. And I'm so honored that my book caught you right around that time and showed you another way forward. That's the power of podcast. You heard me on Allie's podcast. Now someone's going to hear you on this podcast, and it's like you're going to be a part of somebody else's recovery story or just journey from breakdown to breakthrough. And that's it. As women, we share these stories. So now you've really been on this coaching path for some time now. What do you love working with your people on? Like, what is your just magical sweet spot with your people?
I love my most recent favorite client experience was a client who was in that wants to be an entrepreneur, but was going, and she has 5 kids. Amazing woman by the name's Wilda. Wilda, if you're watching this, shout out. She was in that grind and hustle, and if it doesn't feel like work, I'm not working mentality. And when we started working together, she came in through my mindset program, and then we kind of started doing some one-on-one stuff. And she had this light bulb moment. We were going over the concept of letting it be easy. And she was like, if it's not easy, if it's easy, how's it going to make me money? And, we were, and she had this light bulb moment where she was like, oh my God. She realized that while she had been trying to get her entrepreneurial journey started, she has 5 children, I think they're all under 6 years old. She was feeling like not a failure, but feeling like, like she was being held back and like, why isn't this happening? But what was really going on was that through our work, she noticed this, was that she was manifesting business for her husband. So her husband also started an entrepreneurial journey around the same time as her. And as we're working together, I'm getting on calls with her, she's in a different state all the time. She's staying in these fancy hotels, and I'm like, you're calling it in. It's coming path of least resistance right now. And she was like, oh my God, you're right. So the letting it be easy concept, that was a fun one, because she realized in that call that she's living the life that she dreamed of. She's not the one doing the work yet. She's doing the mindset work, and it's coming through her husband's business. And so rad. I can trust this because I just made that happen.
Love it.
All right. That was such a great story about how we can see things for our clients that they're not always willing to see for themselves. Because again, the old programming has to be really freaking hard. Listen, some things are challenging. It's like when your husband died, that was challenging.
That was a challenge.
It's challenging to admit that you have a problem. And then to say, hey, I've got to get help here. I've got to get other people. But then once we go over that edge, it's like that surrender point, that trust that you mentioned. I had to trust that my kids were well taken care of. I had to trust that I was doing the right thing, that me taking care of me was exactly the job that I needed to be doing at that very moment. But within the whole business realm, how can we let it be easy? I remember too, I'll bring this example up, because you're really awesome at coming up with programs and delivering these programs. One of your first programs when you really moved into this coaching realm was to teach people how to create the nanny business. You had done, you have so many interests, And I saw that clearly. I said, well, you obviously know how to do that. You've done that really well for so long. And so you created an offering and you taught a lot of people how to do that now. And so then you have another program, which is really more about mindset. And, that's the thing, you all, like when we're multi-passionate, when we have various topics we could speak really well on, we have a lot of material that could be delivered. That's awesome. But the biggest thing we can do is just pick something. Just pick something and dive in. Pick something and dive in. So what do you want our listeners to know when it comes to, your mindset program, for example? What's kind of just like a big takeaway from that could help someone who might be struggling with their own confidence that you have today?
So Mindset Mastery is a shorter program. It's about 6 weeks long, but the big takeaway that most people get from that, it's kind of the story I just told you about Wilda. It's that like you can let it be easy. We don't have to, like Abraham Hicks says, there's always a stream of well-being. We can either, choose to go against it or flow with it, but it's always flowing just the same. So what I'm teaching them in my mindset work is to go with the flow and follow kind of what you taught me, was to follow the energy, go with what lights you up. Take the path of least resistance. It doesn't have to feel hard. So I think the biggest change and shift that I see in people that go through that program with me is that aha moment of like, wait, it doesn't have to be hard. I can be successful, and it doesn't, and they see me because I'm live with them and they're like, well, she looks like she's having fun and she has a nice house and like, she's going on vacation, and it's like, yeah. And none of my work, I don't ever do work that I don't want to do. I made that shift years ago, and I just don't freaking do anything that I don't want to do anymore. And that's where I think, people hang on to that notion because we grow up with parents that want us to work hard and get the house and pay off the house and, retire and then travel after we retire. Like we have all these programmings that complete BS. Right. You can actually, and my life is kind of a testament to like, you don't have to follow those rules.
Right.
You don't have to follow those rules. You can make your own way, and you can create a life that doesn't feel like work. Yes, there are hard moments. There are things that get me down. I have, days at a time where I'm just like, I really don't want to do anything. But in the grand scheme of things, the work that I'm doing is work that I want to do.
Yes.
And my clients love to learn that that's possible for them. And when we get through the crap that's sabotaging them, and they like step through into the light of day, and they're like, I can do anything. That's the most fun.
Oh my gosh, so good. All right, Rebecca. Well, before I ask you our finale question, I want to know, how can people find you? How can they experience more of your magic?
So I'll give you my Instagram handle. That's probably the best way to get everything. It's at Rebecca Howard 1111. So REB Howard 1111. I'm also, right now, I have a couple of giveaways going. I have a free video training all about stepping into your power. That's available at any time. I'll give you a link so that your listeners can grab that video if they'd like. I'm also hosting a free webinar on Friday on that same topic, but it will be a live webinar. So I can give you both of those links.
Yeah, and that one, by the time this airs, that might have already happened. So
I'll just
you'll give us the video, and y'all, you can go to jennyfennig.com and just type in Rebecca Howard, and that link will come up. And then, did you want to invite them for a call with you?
Yeah, so I would love to offer a free clarity call to anyone who is looking to bust through those blocks and limiting beliefs, step into your personal power, and create more income and more impact. That is what I specialize in. And I am actually taking calls for the next month because I am moving into a launch with my signature program, which is called Soul Ignited Success. And I would love to talk to anybody who's interested in really getting through those blocks, stepping into their power, and learning how to create more impact and more income with ease and grace and flow. So yes,
I love that. So again, go to jennyfennig.com. Thank you, Rebecca, for your generosity. Search for Rebecca Howard. You'll find this episode. We will link it up there on the show notes page. All right, Rebecca, you are one gutsy woman. You have just done so many incredible things. Oh, and I want to let you all know that you can think about Rebecca and I in January when we are in Costa Rica with some other amazing women. I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Rebecca. I want to know, what is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
So the gutsiest move, there's a few of them, but I like to go back to when I was 13. I've told you this story. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go to Europe. I was raised in a Christian church, and my church was offering a missionary trip to Europe that was 8 weeks long. And as a kid, I grew up poor. My parents couldn't afford a lot of so as a kid, I would say, I'm going to Europe one day, I'm going to Europe, and my parents would say, no, there's no way we can afford that. So anyways, this opportunity came along. My parents could give me like $10 each, really, of the $3,000 I needed to raise to go on this trip. Mm-hmm. And so the gutsy little 13-year-old that I was at the time decided to take out the church phone directory and call every single person in the church and ask them to donate money to me so that I could take this missions trip. And all the way to the very end, I was $1,500 short 3 days before. Mm-hmm. Someone anonymously dropped $1,500 off at the pastor's office for me 3 days before we were set to get on the plane. I never stopped believing that I was going to go, no matter what it looked like. And so that move, and I didn't realize that was gutsy, that was just me being determined, right? I was like refusing to accept that I was not going to get on that plane, even though I didn't have the money. Yeah. Came through. And so that was really my first miracle, that first time that I realized the power of believing. Yes. And that's for everything.
Oh my gosh. I love that story. And whoever dropped that $1,500 off, just thank you to them. Your angel got you to Europe. And yeah, that's definitely something I get from you. I see in you, I witness in you. So I want to just acknowledge you for that, Rebecca. You never stop believing. It doesn't matter how much the odds are stacked against you, how hairy it looks. It's like, this is going to come through. This is going to come through. It's like, this or something better. This or something better. This or something better. So I salute you, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being such an incredible client, such an incredible guest here on Get Gutsy. Everybody go check her out, connect in with her, and keep coming back because we got lots more incredible episodes for you here on Get Gutsy. Sending you so much love, and I will see you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.